welcome to All Sorts Podcast.
Yeah.
You know, where we sift through all those articles and notes you've been meaning to get to, and we pull out all the good stuff.
Yay.
Today, we are diving deep into the world of the B-24 Liberator.
Right.
A World War II bomber.
Yeah.
With a story that's, well, a bit more complicated than you might think.
What's fascinating about the B-24 is that it often gets overshadowed by the, I guess you could say, more glamorous cousin, the B-17.
Yeah.
But when you start digging into the details, you really start to see how crucial this aircraft was, especially when you consider its impact across multiple theaters of war.
You know, like you were saying in your email, you were really intrigued by the B-24's adaptability.
Oh, absolutely.
How it ended up doing so much more than just dropping bombs.
A great example of how wartime necessity leads to some truly innovative solutions. Yeah, we're going to see how this plane designed for a specific purpose ended up playing a crucial role in everything from anti-submarine patrols to hauling cargo over the Himalayas.
So let's go back to the beginning. Your source material mentions that Consolidated Aircraft, the company behind the B-24, was initially asked to build B-17s under license.
Under license, exactly.
But they decided to go their own way, aiming for a bomber with even greater range and payload capacity.
It was a bold move, for sure.
Yeah.
You have to remember, this is the late 1930s.
Right.
And the world is on the brink of war. Air power is becoming increasingly important.
Right.
And the U.S. military is looking for a bomber that can strike deep into enemy territory.
Yeah.
Consolidated saw an opportunity not just to, fulfill a contract, but to really push the boundaries of what a bomber could do.
Yeah. And they did that with a pretty radical wing design.
You did it.
The Davis wing.
The Davis wing, yes.
It sounds like this was a key factor in the B-24's impressive range and speed.
Yes.
But also the source of some of its
quirks, shall we say.
Let's say less desirable handling characteristics.
Yes, the Davis wing is a great example of the trade-offs that engineers often have to make.
Yeah.
It's high aspect ratio and laminar flow design.
Right.
We're cutting edge for the time, allowing the B-24 to fly farther and faster with a heavier payload. But that efficiency came at a cost.
What was the cost?
Well, the wing was relatively thin.
Okay.
And it lacked the structural strength of, say, the B-17's wing.
Right.
This made it more susceptible to damage, especially when carrying a full load of bombs or operating in turbulent weather.
Yeah. And you even included some pilot accounts that really highlight this. One pilot described the B-24 as being about as stable as a drunken camel.
I love that.
When fully loaded.
Yeah.
And another famously quipped that the wing couldn't hold enough ice to chill your drink.
Oh, that's great.
That's a good one.
Yeah, those colorful descriptions really bring home the reality of flying the B-24. It demanded a lot of skill and attention from its crews, especially in challenging conditions.
Wow.
And this is before we even get into combat.
Right.
But despite these drawbacks, the B-24's range and payload capacity made it a highly sought-after aircraft. Even before the U.S. officially entered the war.
That's where the British come in, right?
Yes, that's right.
The RAF was actually the first to order and deploy the B-24.
That's right.
And they were using it for a variety of roles, including those crucial early anti-submarine patrols in the Atlantic.
The Battle of the Atlantic was a turning point in the war. The Germans were using U-boats to devastating effects, sinking Allied shipping and threatening supply lines.
Wow.
The RAF was desperate for aircraft that could cover the vast distances of the Atlantic and hunt down these submarines.
Right.
And the B-24, despite its quirks, fit the bill.
It's amazing how a bomber designed to strike land targets.
I know, it is interesting.
Ended up playing such a vital role in naval warfare.
It speaks to that adaptability that we talked about earlier.
Yeah.
It's a key theme we see throughout the B-24's story.
It's a testament to the ingenuity of both the designers and the crews who flew these aircraft. They were constantly finding new ways to use the B-24, adapting it to meet the ever-changing demands of the war.
Yeah, and that's really one of the things that makes it so interesting to study.
So we've got these early liberators prowling the Atlantic, hunting U-boats.
Right.
Then, of course, December 7th, 1941 happens. And everything changes.
Everything changes.
Pearl Harbor thrusts the U.S. fully into the war. And with it comes a massive ramp-up.
A massive ramp-up in B-24 production.
In B-24 production.
Yeah.
We'll get into those incredible production numbers in a bit.
Yeah.
But first, I want to touch on how the U.S. Army Air Forces, the USAAF, began using the B-24 in a variety of theaters, each with its own unique challenges and opportunities.
Absolutely.
And this is where we start to see the B-24's global impact, right?
Yeah.
From the vast expanses of the Pacific to the strategic bombing campaigns over Europe.
That's right.
The Liberator was there.
Yeah.
Playing a crucial role in the Allied air offensive.
And in the Pacific in particular, the B-24 really came into its own. We'll explore that in more detail later. But the key takeaway here is that the B-24's range and payload capacity made it the ideal bomber for striking targets across the vast distances of the Pacific theater.
Wow.
But before we get to the Pacific, let's stick with Europe for a bit. And talk about one of the most daring and costly missions the B-24s were involved in. The Ploieto raids.
These raids, targeting Romania's oil fields, were essential.
They were essential
to crippling the Nazi war machine.
Absolutely.
But they were also incredibly dangerous.
Yeah.
Especially for the B-24 crews.
Yeah.
Flying at low altitudes over heavily defended targets.
The Ploieto raids are a prime example of the B-24's capabilities and the incredible courage of the men who flew them.
Wow.
These were complex, long-range missions that required precise timing, skilled flying, and a willingness to face intense enemy fire.
One of your sources, a first-hand account from a pilot who flew in Operation Tidal Wave, right? The second Ploieto raid describes it as flying through a wall of fire.
It's a powerful image.
Yeah. It's clear these missions took a heavy toll, both in terms of aircraft and crew losses.
Operation Tidal Wave was a particularly brutal mission.
Yeah.
It was the most costly raid in USAF history at the time.
Wow.
With over 50 B-24s lost.
Wow.
And hundreds of airmen killed or captured.
How many?
But it also demonstrated the strategic importance of the B-24. The damage inflicted on the Ploieto oil fields significantly disrupted German fuel supplies.
Wow.
And contributed to the eventual Allied victory in Europe.
So we've got this bomber that's proving its worth in both the Atlantic and European theaters.
That's right.
But it's the Pacific where the B-24's production and deployment really explodes.
Yeah.
Let's dig into that after a quick word from our sponsor.
Sounds good. You know, when you think about the sheer scale of B-24 production during World War II, it's mind-boggling.
It is.
We're talking over 18,000 aircraft.
Wow.
It was a monumental effort that truly showcased American industrial might.
And it wasn't just consolidated building them.
Right, at all.
You got Ford's Willow Run factory.
Oh, yeah.
Which was basically a mile-long assembly line.
It was incredible.
Churning out Liberators.
Willow Run became a symbol of American wartime production.
Wow.
It was this incredible feat of engineering and logistics with raw materials going in one end and finished bombers rolling out the other.
Wow.
Ready for war.
That's incredible.
It is.
And all these B-24s, they weren't just going to Europe.
No.
Your notes highlight the Pacific Theater as the place where the B-24 really became the workhorse bomber.
Yes, absolutely.
What were the factors at play there?
Well, the vast distances of the Pacific demanded an aircraft with exceptional range and payload capabilities. The B-24, even with its handling quirks, could carry a heavier bomb load over longer distances than the B-17.
Oh, wow.
Making it ideal for the island hopping campaigns against the Japanese.
So while the B-17 might get more of the Hollywood spotlight.
Maybe so.
The B-24 was quietly racking up victories in the Pacific.
That's right. That's a good way to put it.
And it wasn't just about bombing.
No, not at all.
Remember that adaptability we talked about?
Oh, absolutely.
In the Pacific, the B-24 took on a multitude of roles.
Right.
It was used for reconnaissance, anti-submarine patrols, search and rescue missions, even transport.
That's right.
You mentioned in your initial request that you were curious about the B-24's role as an assembly ship.
Yes.
it sounds almost counterintuitive.
It does a little bit, yeah.
To use a bomber to help organize other bombers.
Well, think about it this way.
Okay.
Think about the complexity of coordinating massive bombing raids.
Right.
Hundreds of aircraft taking off from different airfields need to come together in precise formations.
Right.
Often in darkness or bad weather.
I hadn't thought about that.
Yeah, so the assembly ships were specially modified B-24s, stripped of their armament, and equipped with bright lights and pyrotechnics.
Okay.
They acted like flying beacons, guiding bomber formations to their rendezvous points.
Wow, that's fascinating.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing.
It's like having air traffic control in the middle of a war zone.
That's a great way to put it.
It really highlights how the B-24's flexibility went far beyond its original design as a bomber.
That's right.
Absolutely.
And we see that flexibility again in the development of the C-87 Liberator Express.
The C-87.
Yeah. This was a dedicated transport variant of the B-24.
Okay.
Used extensively for hauling cargo.
Right.
Especially over the Himalayas.
Wow.
Supplying Allied forces in China.
You know, I've read accounts of those flights over the Himalayas.
Yeah.
The treacherous hump route.
Your legendary route.
It sounds absolutely harrowing.
Oh, yeah.
Flying these heavily laden aircraft through some of the world's most challenging terrain.
Absolutely. It was an incredible feat of airmanship.
Wow.
The C-87s and the brave crews who flew them played a vital role in keeping the supply lines open to China, supporting their resistance against the Japanese.
And this is all happening?
It is. While
B-24s are engaged in strategic bombing campaigns?
That's right.
Across Europe and the Pacific?
Yeah, it's really remarkable when you think about the scope of the B-24's involvement.
So we have a bomber that's been mass-produced, deployed globally.
Yeah.
And adapted for a whole range of missions.
That's right.
It's clearly a crucial part of the Allied war effort.
Absolutely.
But as you pointed out earlier, it often seems to be overshadowed by the B-17.
It does.
In the popular imagination.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it?
Why do you think that is?
Well, part of it might be the B-17's more aesthetically pleasing design.
Right.
It has that classic, almost romantic image of the heavy bomber.
Right.
And then there's the publicity surrounding specific B-17s, like the Memphis Belle.
Oh, right.
Which completed 25 missions and became a symbol of American resilience.
Right. And the B-17 does have that reputation for being a tough, durable aircraft. You mentioned earlier that the B-24's design, especially the Davis wing, made it a bit more fragile.
Well, it did make it more susceptible to damage.
Right.
The B-17, with its sturdy construction, could often take a beating and still bring its crew home.
That's incredible.
The B-24, while capable of absorbing some damage, was perhaps a bit more vulnerable.
And this is especially true
in
the context of those low-level raids like Pleiade.
Absolutely. Flying at those altitudes, even a minor hit could be catastrophic.
So while the B-24 was undoubtedly effective...
Oh, it was.
Its reputation might have suffered a bit.
Maybe, yeah.
Due to its perceived vulnerability.
Possibly.
But it's important to remember that every aircraft has its strengths and weaknesses.
Of course.
The B-24's contributions to the Allied victory are undeniable.
They are.
It's just that its story is perhaps a bit more nuanced.
A little bit,
a bit more hidden beneath the surface.
That's a good way to put it.
And that's why we're here, right? To dive into those nuances.
Exactly.
To explore the stories behind the headlines.
I like that.
And speaking of stories, there's one more intriguing twist in the B-24's tale.
Oh.
One that takes us to, of all places.
Okay, Romania.
Romania, all right. But before we get to that, let's pause for a moment and give a shout out to our amazing listeners.
Yeah.
If you're enjoying this deep dive into the world of the B-24 Liberator, don't forget to hit that like button.
Yes.
Share this episode with your fellow history buffs.
Please do.
And subscribe to the All Sorts podcast
for
more captivating journeys into the past.
We'd love to have you along.
We're here to spark your curiosity.
That's right.
One episode at a time. All right, so before we wrap up our deep dive into the B-24, you mentioned a rather unexpected chapter in the Liberator's story.
Right.
Something involving Romania.
Yeah, it involves one of those historical quirks that reminds us how unpredictable and strange history can be?
Yeah. What is it?
Well, remember those Pleiade raids we discussed?
Yeah.
The ones targeting Romania's oil fields?
Yeah.
Well, after one of those raids, the Romanians managed to salvage a downed B-24.
Wait, seriously?
Yeah.
They got one of these massive bombers.
They did.
Back in working order.
It's quite impressive, actually.
After it had been shot down.
They scrounged up parts from other downed B-24s.
Wow.
Patched it up. Wow. And even repainted it.
Wow.
With Romanian markings and camouflage.
That's wild.
Imagine their ingenuity and determination.
So what did they do with it?
Well...
Did they try to use it against the Allies?
It seems their initial plan was to use it for training purposes.
Oh, okay.
You know, help their fighter pilots become familiar with the Liberator's flight characteristics.
Oh, so they...
Making them better equipped to defend against future raids.
Oh, that makes sense.
Yeah.
But something tells me this salvaged B-24 didn't exactly have a long and illustrious career.
Ironically, the salvaged Liberator was destroyed in a German air raid.
Oh, wow.
A case of friendly fire, you could say.
Talk about adding insult to injury.
I know, right?
First, their oil fields get bombed. Then their salvage bomber gets taken out by their own allies.
Yeah, it's almost comical.
It seems like the B-24, even in its afterlife, had a knack for finding itself in the middle of the action.
It does highlight the unpredictable nature of war and the unexpected ways in which events can unfold.
But even in this bizarre incident, we see the B-24's presence extending beyond the traditional battle lines.
It really does.
It speaks to how widespread and impactful this aircraft was during the war.
Absolutely. I think that's a great point.
We've seen how it started as a bomber with ambitious goals, faced design challenges, played crucial roles in multiple theaters.
That's right.
And even in a strange twist of fate, ended up briefly serving with the enemy.
And through it all, the B-24 and the thousands of men who designed, built, maintained, and flew it played a vital role in securing Allied victory. While it might not have the same iconic status as some other aircraft, its contribution to the war effort was immense.
I think we've covered a lot of ground today.
We have.
Exploring the B-24's journey, from its ambitious beginnings to its surprising afterlife in Romania.
It's been a fascinating journey.
We've delved into its strengths and weaknesses, its triumphs and tragedies, and seen how its adaptability made it a truly versatile weapon in the Allied arsenal.
I agree. It's a testament to the ingenuity and resilience of both the aircraft and the people who flew it.
And that, I think, is a great note to end on.
It is.
The B-24's legacy is not just about the aircraft itself, but about the people who brought it to life and those whose lives it touched.
Well said.
If you're interested in learning more,
there
are countless stories waiting to be discovered.
Oh, absolutely.
Personal accounts, historical records, and even museums dedicated to preserving the memory of this remarkable aircraft.
It's a reminder that history is all around us, waiting to be explored. Sometimes it takes digging a little deeper, looking beyond the familiar narratives to uncover those hidden gems.
Well said, and that wraps up our deep dive into the B-24 Liberator here on the All Sorts podcast.
It's been a pleasure.
We hope you found this exploration informative and engaging.
I certainly have.
If you did, we'd love for you to hit that like button, share this episode with your friends.
Please do.
And subscribe to our channel for more fascinating deep dives.
We have so much more to explore.
And all sorts of captivating topics.
That's right. And if you want to stay connected, you can find us on X, Instagram, and Threads.
Perfect.
We're always posting new content and engaging with our amazing community of listeners.
And remember, the journey of discovery doesn't end here.
No, it doesn't.
There's a whole world of knowledge waiting to be explored.
Keep asking questions, keep seeking answers, and keep that spark of curiosity alive.
Beautifully put. Until our next adventure, keep exploring and keep those All Sorts podcast episodes coming. Thanks for listening.
Thanks, everyone.